In the first module, we orient it to breath as a system level lever. In module 2, we begin learning how to read the body's baseline, so breathwork becomes adaptive rather than reactive. This is where physiology becomes a facilitation skill. Functional versus dysfunctional breathing. Not all breathing supports regulation. Functional breathing is generally nose-led, diaphragmatic, smooth and rhythmic, appropriately paced for the body's needs. When breathing is functional, oxygen delivery is efficient, the nervous system's balanced, and energy is used economically. Dysfunctional breathing looks different. Mouth breathing, shallow or upper chest movement, fast, erratic rhythms, frequent sighting or unconscious breath holding. These patterns are not necessarily character flaws, they're adaptive responses that are shaped by stress, trauma, or long-term overactivation. Physiologically, they lower carbon dioxide tolerance and place the body in a state of subtle stress. As facilitators, we're not here to correct or shame breathing patterns. We're here to recognize what the system is already doing and respond accordingly. CO₂ tolerance and the BOLT score, body oxygen level test. One of the most important variables in breathwork safety is carbon dioxide tolerance. CO₂ is not just a waste gas. It's a primary regulator of breathing, circulation, and oxygen delivery. The BOLT score gives us a simple way to assess how sensitive a person's system is to changes in CO₂. Lower scores below 30 often indicate chronic overbreathing and higher reactivity. Higher scores above 30 reflect efficiency, resilience, and more stable internal chemistry. It's not a performance metric, it's a baseline and a starting point. When we know where someone's system begins, we can choose techniques that support adaptation rather than overwhelm. The Bohr effect and oxygen delivery. The Bohr effect explains why CO₂ tolerance matters so much. When carbon dioxide levels are low, hemoglobin holds on to oxygen more tightly. Even if oxygen saturation looks high, less oxygen is released. When CO₂ rises within healthy range, oxygen is released more easily. Cells receive what they need. Energy production becomes more efficient. Cognitive clarity improves. This is why slower breathing, tolerance training, and well-paced breath holds can increase focus and resilience. And it's why overbreathing can create fatigue, dizziness, anxiety, even when someone feels like they're getting more air. Understanding this allows us to respond with clarity instead of confusion. Blood pH, alkalosis, and acidosis. Breathwork shifts blood chemistry. Rapid or deep breathing lowers CO₂ and raises blood pH, creating respiratory alkalosis. This can feel activating, sometimes expansive and intense. Slower breathing and breath holds raise CO₂ and lower pH slightly, creating mild respiratory acidosis. This often feels grounding, heavy, or deeply calming. Neither state is inherently good or bad. What matters is dose, pacing, and context. Facilitation is not about choosing the right state. It's about guiding the system through states without exceeding its capacity to integrate them. Hormesis and mitochondrial adaptation. Breathwork is a hormetic stressor. In small, controlled doses, stress stimulates adaptation. Mitochondria is the powerhouse and the energy center of our cells. The nervous system becomes more resilient and capacity increases over time as the stress tolerance continues to increase. Intermittent hypoxia, breath holds, and rhythmic breathing all challenge the body in this supportive way. Our role as facilitators is not necessarily to test endurance, but to treat stress carefully and gradually. As we move forward, hold this frame. Breathwork is nervous system training, it's mitochondrial training, and it requires discernment. When you understand physiology, you don't need to push experience. You can sense when to slow down, when to ground, and when to allow the body to recognize on its own. And that's how breathwork becomes sustainable. And that's how facilitation becomes responsible.